Well, a very good evening to our viewers here on TV4 and welcome to another edition of Sports Wednesday for this Wednesday, the 17th of June 2015. And, it's a program where we discuss the state of play of various sporting disciplines here in Trinidad and Tobago. Always glad that you could join us for these, very interesting sessions here as we look at sport. And today we wanted to touch on the sport of bodybuilding, and I have two gentlemen and a lady who would know all about that and who are actively, of course, involved in the sport of bodybuilding. So at my extreme left, I will introduce Mr. Richard Roberts, who is the Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Bodybuilding Federation. And the beautiful lady between these two gentlemen is Zulema Charles. She is the Miss Bikini winner of 2015, and I want to say congratulations to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And next to her, of course, is Brett Bengochea, the men's physique winner 2015. Again, congratulations to you, Brett, and of course, Zulema. And well, I want to start from an administrative point of view. And of course, naturally, I would start with the VP of the Trinidad and Tobago Bodybuilding Federation. Of course, Richard Roberts, a man who has been involved in the sport a very long time, I believe, as a competitor and now as of course, and as an administrator. So welcome, lady and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Well, Richard, first off, let's set the stage and talk a little bit about the state of bodybuilding in Trinidad, and maybe a little bit Trinidad and Tobago, and of course maybe a little bit about the history of the sport here in TNT.
Well, the history it's a long history, really. The sport has basically, it was there before me. I was born before 1964, but where it really took off is with the indomitable, if I must say, if I must use the expression, Alvin Harris, who was the really first real active president of bodybuilding in Trinidad and Tobago. And I dare say he also was the first, he helped form, in fact, he was very instrumental in forming the Caribbean Bodybuilding Federation, the CSC, which is Central American and Caribbean Bodybuilding Federation, which is probably the largest organization for this sport in this part of, the world. Yeah. Well, save and except for North America, of course. But the sport moved on from there. I mean, we've had a lot of participation in the sport. Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, we were always rivals, and Trinidad and Tobago more or less dominated the sport in the 70s and 80s, even at the 90s. But after that, we've been getting some level of, we've been struggling with Barbados particularly, and now, well, we have a lot of Central American countries now actually pretty active in this sport, and like Guatemala, Costa Rica, Panama, they're all very active now, and because the sport has taken off worldwide, the participation is huge in the Caribbean, but Barbados still holds its own. I must say Trinidad is now falling into third place very often, whereas we were always either first or second. I'm seeing that we're falling into third place often. This is not largely for the sake of the athletes, but I must say the athletic involvement in the sport and the fact that the sport has changed, so many disciplines now have been added to bodybuilding. We have men's physique, we have men's fitness, we have women's fitness, we have women's body figure, we have, and these are the disciplines, by the way, that are actually gaining ground on what we call the hardcore bodybuilding. It's actually taking a back seat. We have women's physique, and of course, the most, impacting of them is the women's bikini contest. For which Zulema did pretty well.
For very good reasons, huh?
Oh, yes. It's quite actually, but And at this point, I want to inform Trinidad, it's still sport.
Yes.
Because it seems to be, you know, really, it's a sexy look.
Yeah. But you still have to train and go through,
of course, as a matter of fact, if, you know, the judges are so keen on observing whether this person just straight off Maracas Beach and onto the stage as opposed to an athlete. Because, I mean, I urge and encourage the participants, the athletes, as I always call them, to remember that we're still in a sport.
Yes.
Because this line of the sport encourages some glamour. It encourages the ladies to display themselves in a more, what you call it, active way on the stage. So they strut across the stage more like models, but remembering that judges are looking for lines of definition. We're looking for confidence. We're looking for how your body moves. If your glutes are jiggling, if it's just firm muscle we're looking at, and so on. So judges are keen on what we are there to look for. Because, and you know, I always have problems at the bikini contest when we judge it, because sometimes, you know, ladies display themselves really, really, really energetically, and it could be, in some sense, a bit seductive. To the untrained eye. I mean, as judges, we're looking, we're working, so we're looking, but they're well received. I must say. So, and rightly so, but there is a criteria, and it still is a sport. So we have to judge based on that. And sometimes it's, you know, the so-called favorite girl is not necessarily the one that fits the criteria, and that tends to anger people, but we still have to maintain that this is a sport. So yes, the history, the sport is, you know, has taken so many different facets. It's actually moved away. In fact, there is no more women's bodybuilding. You know, you remember the women started to look like guys.
That's right,
And the IFBB, in its wisdom, and I really coin it wisdom because they realized that it was the sport itself was losing appeal. It had appeal at the professional level, but in a freaky way. And, you know, the world, the sponsors were moving away from that kind of look. And so they decided, you know what, let's soften up the competitions for the ladies. Even so for the men, because when you look at the world entries, what we're seeing is that long ago we had a huge lineup for bodybuilding on the stage. Excuse me. Now what we're experiencing is that for men's physique, which is Bengochea's look, it's like model, it's like fitness model, it's a fitness model look, you know? And it's a wider appeal to sponsors, to people, the ladies, they like the look. I mean, so the buff look.
Well, talking about that's a natural segue into Zulema, the experience that you would have recently gone through. Is it a lot of, like what Richard described? Was that your experience? And tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the sport and how long you've been involved in the sport.
Okay, I got involved, well, actually quite by, well, I'd say accident. I normally dance, I'm a dancer. And what happened was dancing, the times clashed with UE. And so I started putting on weight and some cellulite started to form. And I was like, okay, I can't be on stage. So I decided to go to the gym. And then I started.
And this was how long ago?
This was probably like 3 years ago. And then I did all this reading, Googled, and I realized, okay, so if you're going to the gym, you have to change your lifestyle, change what you eat, in order to see, you know, your hard work coming to light. And basically, I was just training and eating properly for life. And everyone thought I was training for competition because I was going so hard. And they're like, well, you might as well enter. And that's basically how I fell into it. That's it.
Great. Great. And Brett?
I think we have very similar stories. In that, as far as weight training goes, I've been training as, I remember being in primary school, putting on little concrete blocks on broomsticks and making and lifting. Lou Ferrigno, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Lee, these were my idols. These were the guys that I wanted to be like. and I got very heavily involved in martial arts. I represented the country in karate.
Okay.
And the only time I can remember not lifting was when it is at a tournament coming up. And
Yes.
not because, and there's a perception where they say, well, oh, don't lift weight. It wasn't because of that. It was just that I had to put so much time into actually training in karate
Yeah.
that,
Yes.
that I didn't have the time to lift. So coming out of that, I've retired from arts competition. And just like Zulema, I was training, and people asking me, what are you training for? What are you training for? I have a motto, a hashtag that I use on all my Instagram posts where I say train, don't work out. Because people come in the gym and they just work out, but they're not training for anything. I believe that, and I grew up training hard.
Yes.
So I just kind of put that same training into weightlifting. And then a couple of months ago, I sat down with my brothers and we were looking at Arnold, this little show, this blueprint to bodybuilding. And Kirk was like, Brett, but you could do that, man. And I said, all right, cool, let's do it.
Okay.
Also, kind of to fall back, I trained with a powerlifting team. And I think that one of the reasons why I was able to get ready so fast for men's physique is the strength base. And I train with them because I just love the way they train. This Boom Squad, they really, really push the envelope. They're some of the strongest guys pound for pound in the country.
Yeah.
And I just love the training.
Yeah.
So is the train, is the grind we go for, not the glory.
Yes. Well, we want to have you all join in discussion at any point in time, you know, but I will come back to you and tell me a little bit about the kind of regimen that you had to go through as you prepared for the latest competition that you won in your class.
Basically, it's a lifestyle. So
It's definitely a lifestyle.
I train 6 days a week, and that's
a lot.
Yeah, Monday to Saturday. Sunday is my rest day. So that happens regardless if I'm preparing for a competition or not.
So you're missing training today?
No, I'm not.
Is that it? Or you...
Great answer.
Okay.
Like I said, even before I got into the competition, I changed my lifestyle. So my general diet is low salt, low sugar, actually.
Okay.
So that's my general diet.
In and out of competition?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yes.
So basically just tweaking it for competition is not that much of a deal for me.
Okay.
So I basically live that lifestyle throughout the year.
Okay.
What happens is, you know, the cardio gets turned up towards competition. You really start weighing your food. I weigh my food.
Literally?
Yeah, literally weigh with a scale.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to know exactly how many carbs, fats, you know, sugars, sodiums in your body. And yeah, so it just gets a little more intense, but generally, that's my lifestyle.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I want to develop on that a little bit later in the program. But Richard, I want to pick you up on the point where you said Trinidad and Tobago is now ranking third in the region, whereas we were leaders in that in the sport. What has accounted for that?
There are a number of factors, really. Because there are a lot more entries, countries entering, the categories are now heavily challenged. So whereas, say, we would have won a category against Barbados, we would have taken it from Barbados, or say from, well, they were our closest rival at any one time. What is happening now is that you would have someone who's coming really good from, say, Guatemala or from Costa Rica or something.
Yeah.
So
yes.
You see, now the categories are divided. What you lose, you lose. So where we were strong, we are now sort of not so strong. Apart from that, we always have to send more or less reduced size team for want of proper funding.
Well, that seems to be the perennial problem in sport in Trinidad and Tobago. But we'll talk about that after the break. We'll talk a little bit about that and, you know, some of the things that you think needs to happen in terms of, you know, getting your teams properly prepared for competitions abroad. And you know, I also want to talk about against the international competition at the moment. But we got to go to a break. You're viewing Sports Wednesday. We are discussing, you know, one of my favorite sports, actually, bodybuilding. It's hard to believe, isn't it? But just to remind you that we are streaming live at www.facebook.com/OurTV4 and gisltd.tt/TV4. Twitter, the hashtag Sports Wednesday, and our phone numbers, and we will invite you to call in with your comments, questions, your contributions to the program. 675-8747, 675-8749. I understand when we come back from the break, we do have some highlights or some photos of the last competition. So that's something to look forward to. So we take a break. This is Sports Wednesday. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sports Wednesday, and we're discussing bodybuilding today with our guest in studio, Richard Roberts, the Vice President of the Trinidad and Tobago Bodybuilding Federation, Zulema Charles, Miss Bikini winner 2015, and Brett Bengochea, Men's Physique winner 2015. And of course, the clip you saw there, I understand, was from the 2014 competition, not this year's competition. But of course, these two winners are from this year's juniors competition, which took place recently at the Cascadia Hotel in Port of Spain. Brett, in terms of your training, is it similar to Zulema's, or how is it for the men training for Mr. or I guess it's Mr. Physique winner? Yeah. What's that like for you?
It's been, well, I mean, I'm addicted to it. 7 days a week in the gym. Coming down to competition twice a day, Monday to Friday. But my base has always been powerlifting within recent times. Okay. So like I would alternate the days. So I would do a high intensity day where I'm focusing strictly on powerlifting training. And then I alternate that with a higher volume, more bodybuilding, split style workout.
Yeah.
I believe you do pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Seems to be a working formula.
And for the benefit of our viewers who may not know the difference, just briefly explain the difference between powerlifting and actually weightlifting.
Well, in powerlifting, what you're doing is that you're trying to move the most amount of weight possible on three major exercises. Okay. The deadlift, the squat, and the bench press.
Okay.
So your training is geared, it's strictly strength-based.
Yeah.
Whereas in bodybuilding, you're trying to get more volume in, as in more greater amount of reps. So that as you get tired out on your bench press, you probably pick up the dumbbells and you do incline press. Yeah. So you can get more and more and more reps in.
Yeah, but that's over, excuse just to
sure. Feel free to come in anytime.
Jump in.
Yes. Sorry, but it's over a way wider range of exercises.
Yes.
Because bodybuilding has to target each and every muscle in the body. So bodybuilding is geared to separating them all.
Yeah.
So you're accentuating all the groups as opposed to powerlifting. Why it's massing you up, and it's largely what you call a composite set of exercises. Like the deadlift will help. You know, it's a chain from the ground up exercise that would enable a lot of your power muscles, your major muscle groups, to become powerful, especially at the rate at which you will perform the exercise. So rate matters. So the powerlifting requires that, as you say, you move as much weight against your body weight in a specific way. Whereas bodybuilding now is sculpting the groups now into their individual muscle fibers and strands.
And just to build on exactly what he's saying, to give an example, for instance, in powerlifting, I'm doing bench, I'm doing deadlifts, but for men's physique, you want a sort of a V-taper. So I'm not going to just keep doing those exercises and get that. So I'm going to have to include chin-ups. I'm going to have to include lateral raises, and so that you get hypertrophy on different muscles that you're not necessarily focusing on within powerlifting.
Yes. Yeah. Zulema, what kind of definition you look for? I mean, what body parts and so on that you would accentuate, and that will of course relate to what the judges, like Richard and Donna and all of these, the panel of judges and so on. Susanna, sorry, are looking for.
Well, everyone's different. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
So for me, from last year to this year, I focused a lot on my shoulders and my glutes and calves, because that for me was lacking in 2014.
Okay.
I had a very small upper body. Because I'm a dancer, I had powerful legs, but my upper body was like overpowering. Sorry, my lower body was overpowering my upper body.
Yes.
So I focused on building shoulders. I tried to trim down my legs a little bit, and of course my calves, which are very stubborn, but I'm still there, hacking away at the calves. So it depends. Different people work on different things. So it's really up to the person.
Do you all combine a mixture? Because I know most people would train in gyms, and some are attached to gyms, and you know, you have a posse from the gym would come out to support you at competitions.
Right.
But I want to talk a little bit about that. Are those facilities adequate? Do you find that you have, you know, what you need, you know, to prepare you properly for these competitions at the gyms?
At the gym?
Or do we need be some different kinds of infrastructure in the country to prepare athletes properly?
Wow. For what I know of the major gyms in the country, and actually there are quite a few.
Yes.
They're very well
equipped.
Okay. As opposed to what we have, say, nationally and in certain little crevices for you know, other use. But and if I want to knock, I don't think that the gym at the National Stadium could be called in the right gym. Sorry, whoever I'm hurting, but the reality is there's room for improvement there. But I'm saying for the gyms that you could pay for, you have to remember though, these gyms have reasonably high memberships for people, young, promising athletes who probably can't afford to go to them.
Yes.
And yeah, that might be a challenge. Save and accept, I made my own gym. I'm probably suffering from lead poisoning right now. Years and years ago, I competed from home, under my home. I did pretty well then.
A lot of people like yourself, you know, in yesteryear and so on, competed at, you know, really trained themselves and prepared themselves at home.
Self-taught, did everything at home. Of course, there's been lots and lots of development along the way. I mean, the ministry, being NSOs, we've been placed, and I mean really placed, in front of some of the best coaches.
Yeah.
For capacity building, you know, especially heads of sporting organizations and coaches had the opportunity, and still have in some cases, because some continuing courses. Yeah. So we've been placed in front of the best to be coached, to be trained to coach. So that is good. I've learned a lot through that, and able to now build capacity in the athletes. Yes. But I must say there's room for more of that as well. And we are at the TTBBF level working on something like that, soon to be advertised. But something.
You mean that is getting your own facility?
Not our own facility, but partnering with government and so on.
Okay, all right. Okay.
With regards to enabling more athletes and in a wider diaspora, not bodybuilding, because again, they were discussing off air that when people ask them why they're training, if it's for competition, but they're saying they're training for life.
For life, yes.
And this is something that has to be understood. Trinidad is a fairly healthy country because we've been partnered with some Eastern European country for the first citizens, if I could mention it. Yeah. They had TEFISA, the organization for sporting activity throughout the world. we have had, working with Mark Mungle, and they putting Trinidad, coupling Trinidad with the city. I can't remember the city by name, but when they visited and they saw that what's going on around the Savannah, what's going on Chancellor, they said, but this country is pretty fit. I mean, you guys are always, I mean, children, in fact, in most cases, is get towards carnival, but you know, in large part, a lot of people just pick up from there and are really serious about the fitness. Well, not enough, though, because we still have the issue of obesity being extremely high in this country.
Yes.
And I think I think that pushes it, the obesity thing. Like, whenever you have something really strong, I mean, Trinidad, was it a study done, was it last year, where they said we were like the third most obese nation, sixth or something. Whenever you have something pushing one way, you tend to have a very strong counterculture. You had the World War, and then you had the hippie movement, so that there's a big obesity problem in Trinidad. There's bound to be a rebound.
Fitness. So that more persons become conscious of the state of their health and want to do something about it. You know.
And I think, to go back to answer your question that you posed in my door, I did not find myself wanting anything with regards to facilities. I have a very good team around me. HB, they provided anything I needed.
Yes.
So I don't think I found myself wanting at all. And the support and the feedback I got from Trinidad coming out of this, there's a very strong fitness culture in Trinidad.
Now, an appreciation, if I might add.
An appreciation.
You know, bodybuilding is an expensive sport. It's largely, by and large, an individual sport. You may send teams to CAC, but as a group of persons to represent the country, but they are participating in various categories. Now, individually, and I'll target this question to both of you. What's it like for you? Is it pretty expensive to maintain the correct diet, to, of course, go to the gym and to get all that you need, maybe supplements and so on, to maintain that perfect physique that you now have, and of course that the judges look for on competition night? Tell me a little bit about that for both of you.
I'll jump in here.
Yeah, please.
Yes. So I'm still studying. So my income's not large. So, yes, it's very expensive. Thankfully, I got a sponsor, Body Glue, so they help with my supplements.
Great. We won't charge you for that free ad,
free plug.
Yeah.
But yes, even as I read, and I started to realize how stringent you have to be with your meals and planning and all that, and how much you're supposed to eat. Yes, my grocery bill went up a lot.
Yes.
And then there's gym fees, and I also do yoga to help with stretching. So it does go up a lot.
Yeah. And in addition to that, you have supplements as well.
But I'm sponsored by.
Again, twice. Brett.
Exactly like Zulema, you just have HB instead of Body Glue.
Right.
That's helping me out in these
A
supplements.
lot.
Your food bill goes up a little bit. You tend to find that lean protein sources are a little more expensive.
Yes.
It's easy to get locally, especially very high fat, high carb foods with very little protein.
Yes.
So if it is you're on a budget, it is a little difficult to find. But that's not saying that it's not there. If it is you go through, you can find stuff. You can have the same, same fullness on a meal that is relatively high in protein.
Yes.
And it tastes good, but you just need to know your choices.
What your choice is, And you prepare that food in a special way. You have to,
I eat the same thing Monday to Friday. Exactly the same thing.
I meal prep.
Okay.
So I cook like on Sundays or Saturdays. I basically cook a batch of, like, say, chicken or beef, quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, broccoli, and I portion them out. I weigh them, I portion them out, and that's it for the rest of the week.
Okay.
I would go so far as to say that I think any physique competitor, bodybuilder, spends as much time or more time in the kitchen than
Yes.
I mean,
I'm thinking about
just the
food.
reality.
Yeah. So Richard, maybe that answers your question, because you spoke earlier on about sponsorship and you know, prior to now that you this problem of getting sponsors for athletes and for the competitions and so on. Is that happening now that you have all of these attractive categories in the competition?
More so, but what I want to say is that Zulema and Mr. Bengochea are not the only two athletes in Trinidad and Tobago. It's unfortunate.
Yes. Okay.
And we in Trinidad tend to like to just want to help winners.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Without any concern as towards the development of those coming behind. And very often, sometimes they're the ones that need the help, and they're the ones with massive potential that are struggling. I don't 100% believe, though, that you have to be under such stringent use of ergogenics, as they call it, supplementation and so on.
Okay.
You can eat properly within 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 months of competition.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
After which you have to really then start to work out and actually work out your supplementation. And even actually the week before or 2 weeks before competition, you don't want to be on any supplements.
Yes. Yes.
Because supplements carry with them measures of sodium and different minerals and so on, and additives that could actually affect how your body responds to the finished product, dieting.
Yeah.
And so what could happen there is that it could be more harmful to your final presentation.
Yeah.
So, say that you really have to lean heavily. I'm not dumping on the body glues and so on and so on.
Yes.
But I'm saying for the rest of Trinidad and Tobago, acquiring or coming very close to this form could be done if you shop carefully.
And you eat properly. So you should get all your nutrients from your food.
Yes, you
Eat
should.
properly.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's a different kind of fuel that will go into a Ferrari as opposed to a Sunny.
Yes.
And as again, a different output on the track. But the reality is that they still need fuel to move along.
Okay.
So that your food could be carefully sorted. One has to pay attention to the amount of carbohydrates that we're using, because carbohydrates could store only as well. First to begin, the human body is marvelous at storing energy.
Yes.
It's designed to store energy. It's as though, that's what we're really good at. If we just
Yes.
And how is energy stored? As fat.
But, yeah.
And that's it. We're perfect stores of energy. We should if we could just use the fat from humans to power the electricity and so on,
We'd be good to go.
We'd be good to go.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah. Well, we will develop that when we come back. We got to take a break again. Of course, folks, we're discussing the sport of bodybuilding. And just to remind you that you can call in if you want to make a contribution to the program or to chat with our guests, 675-8747, 675-8749. We take a short break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Sports Wednesday. Good to have you with us. Of course, we're discussing bodybuilding with our guests in studio. Richard Roberts, of course, the Vice President, Trinidad and Tobago Bodybuilding Federation. Zulema Charles, Miss Bikini winner 2015, and Brett Bengochea, Men's Physique winner 2015. Zulema, how have your involvement in the sport help you with your various careers? I know, Zulema, you're a dancer, and I take it we'll continue with that.
Also getting into nutrition as well.
And
so
nutrition,
yes,
yeah. So how has that this lifestyle now assisted you in your pursuit?
Well, the Bodybuilding helps with the dancing because that means I'm just ready to go. I'm fit all the time.
Yeah.
I'm ready just to jump on stage and perform. So that helps. The bodybuilding made me more aware of food, and not even the type of food, but the quality of food as well. And I got very interested, and so right now I'm studying nutrition.
Okay.
So to become a health and wellness coach, because I think a lot of people go to the gym and they really think they could, squat or do ab crunches and the abs will magically appear, where it's really your diet.
Yeah, abs are made in the kitchen.
Abs are, I mean, you say that all the time and people just, they don't get, it's your diet.
Yes.
So I really think that, because I'm thinking of going into, training after, but for me, the nutrition is what people really don't get, and that's where I really want to start.
Yes.
With the nutrition.
Yes. Yeah. Did you have to seek the advice or some consultation with nutritionist, for example?
No, I did most of my research online.
Okay.
I did some over the internet courses with some pros as well.
Okay.
So I got some feedback on, dieting and what to eat and what not to eat. So that helps out a lot. But basically, my latest coach, Yash Jimin, helps me with my nutrition as well. So it's just a combination of seeking expert advice from pros and my coach.
Right.
And my own research.
Yes. And Brett?
To that, just like this, you have a free access to information online.
Yeah.
And you have a body that you can test stuff on. I read up on intermittent fasting. I did it for 3 years, see how it works. I read up on low carb, high fat. I did it for about 6 months. It was grumpy as hell. but and right now I follow macronutrient management. And it's stuff that is available online for free. You can
thank God for the internet.
You do your research and you try it.
You have to be careful where you research.
Where you get your
course.
information from as well. You have to be selective.
You have to be, well, I mean...
In large part, you should look at, if you don't mind me just interrupting.
Yeah, sure.
In large part, you should look at sites where you have like university studies.
Properly researched and
properly researched
documented.
or ongoing research.
Yes.
As opposed to product company, because remember, everybody's trying to sell you something.
Exactly.
And if they're selling you something, they're also selling an idea.
And when somebody quotes a study, you go onto PubMed and you check these studies and read it for yourself. And you realize, well, wait, now these people had ulterior motives.
Right,
Yes. What do you go onto to check it?
PubMed.
Okay.
Is where they have the actual medical studies done and like what were the factors that they manipulated.
Yes.
And this stuff is available.
Okay.
You don't have to pay for it.
Yes.
It's available online.
Yeah.
So yeah. What's the other question?
Yeah. So I want to come back to facilities, Richard, in terms of what we need in Trinidad and Tobago to prepare our athletes properly. I mean, and to really come up to par, come up to speed with the competition internationally. What would you say are some of the requirements locally that we need to put in place for athletes, and how is that done? I mean, are you in contact or do you liaise from time to time with, let's say, the Ministry of Sport or the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago? I know it's a hyper question.
It's charged in the sense that we've had a relationship with them, stronger relationship before. Things are slightly different now, but I prefer to say that the way we do things now is actually while we could do it, is work with the athletes themselves. We actually scout. And you wouldn't believe the equipment that there is, I mean, in Trinidad. There are different gyms in Trinidad, all the way out in Pinal and South and Central. State-of-the-art gyms, the best. Really, actually, the Southland right now has the best gyms in the country.
So I've heard.
I've visited a few in the last 2 months, and I'm blown away. I wish I could drive all the way up to South End just to train. Or to even take athletes to train. There's awesome gyms up in the South. And I mean, not just ordinary, awesome. Suffice it to say, they seem not to fit into the communities. I'm only saying that based on the understanding of the lifestyles. And that I'm hoping will change. I'm hoping that the people, because in visiting the gyms, you find that the owners are there saying, well, you know, let's put it this way. On a Saturday evening or a Friday evening, when you think, well, you expect to find a full gym because you're not seeing that it is filled capacity. Yes. I mean, and all that equipment is sitting there. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, misplaced. That is my thinking, of course.
But isn't that a better time to train? Because I find the gym, and lady and gentlemen, I do go to the gym. Yes. I find that on a Saturday evening, it's quite
quieter, because people
much quieter, which I prefer, because you know I can do my range of exercises quite comfortably. Yeah, but you were developing the point, and I wanted to as well. How do you scout for the new talent? How is the sport organized in Trinidad administratively, Trinidad and Tobago, to you know discover new talent? So
before we sort of partnered with Ministry of Sport, they had eduvans, and we would do displays, and we would go to schools. I went to IRE High School, and there was quite a lot of interested young students there too. We visit schools because within the school fraternity and the sport of men's physique is more accepted, because a lot of parents don't mind their sons or daughters looking like Zulema as opposed to Zulema and Clyde. Not Brett. Brett. As opposed to, I can't say, let me see who, like a big Durham Charles or something, you know, because somehow they tend to think that will interfere with their growth, that will interfere with all kinds of things. Of course, there's a lot of myth to be, and things to be unlearned. There's a huge amount of stuff to be unlearned, because in large part, I mean, even recent research, as I was explaining to Zulema, there is no way to control type 2 diabetes other than weight training. Weight training, I'm not saying aerobics, I'm not saying running up and down the place. Weight resistance training helps your body and your insulin receptors respond properly. And that's research. That is good research. You could visit the sites and you will see it yourself. So that, I say all that to say, everything is in place for us. We now have to shift the people in place. We have to change the thinking. We have to dispel the myths. All sorts of silly myths revolve around this whole thing about strength training and all kinds of things. But bit by bit be etching away at this stuff, because this whole thing is sculpting a lovely body and at the same time ensuring that you as long as a truck doesn't run over you or some train or plane or something, you live healthy for as long as possible. And not just healthy, but enabled. Physically strong, feeling really good. What could take the place of that? Money? No way. I'm sorry.
So at the competition that you came up against, you know, how was it for you this year, and what did you do differently in 2014 as opposed to 2015 in terms of preparing for this year's competition?
Well, I definitely went into the competition this year a little more knowledgeable about what the judges were looking for. I would say my first junior competition, I didn't really know exactly. They told me a beach body that's not quite maracas, a little more toned than maracas, basically. That's what they told me. I was like, okay.
So you kind of were groping in the dark?
I was groping in the dark. And then after I realized, you know, okay, Z, I'm going to do this again, I started to research. And so I knew, well, after self-evaluation, because you have to get very critical about about yourself and know exactly what you have and you don't. Right? I realized, okay, I need this, I need that. And so I started to, my training changed depending on what I needed, I didn't need. I have a very strong back. I love doing back. But I don't need to do back. I need to focus on something else. Right? So my training changed in terms of what I put emphasis on. Also, again, with a lot of research, my diet changed as well to make my body a little more efficient at, growing mass and muscles and burning fats and utilizing my glycogen storage. And so this year, I went in, a little more armed. And I was quite happy at, where I was. I definitely look different from last year, which is all that mattered to me. I want to look, I want to improve. So I was happy with where I was. regardless of the precinct, I was really happy at what happened, how I turned out.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Brett, was that your experience as well? Similar?
Well, this is my first year competing.
Okay.
My background has been martial arts, so I know what it is like to get in and train.
Yeah.
Correct,
Yes.
What I drew from a myriad of things, because apart from martial arts, I did a lot of kata competitions, which is like performance.
Yeah.
In karate, I model regularly for like House of Jaipur and that kind of stuff. I act. I'm very active on the local film circuit.
Okay.
So, and I MC shows. So, the stage didn't scare me. I just kind of treat it like a performance on the day.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I had a lot of things to draw from. So like I was very fortunate to have a nice bag of goodies to say, okay, well, I know how to train, I know how to do that. And men's physique.
You had resources to draw on.
Yeah. And it was the perfect. I feel like I've been training for men's physique before men's physique was a sport.
Okay.
That, you know, I was just training and like, wow, I can't see myself doing anything else right now.
Right. Richard, we just have a few minutes, lady and gentlemen. We just have a few minutes. Seemed the time just went by so quickly. But I want to ask you, Richard, I'm not going to raise the vexing question of drugs in the sport because, you know, apparently you're making efforts to move away from that. But I want to ask you specifically about, you know, the future of the sport in Trinidad and Tobago. What are some of the things that you need to encourage athletes to get involved and not only for competition, but to live a healthy lifestyle, as you said, because the benefits are, you know, you have well articulated the benefits of living a healthy lifestyle and so on. Yeah. Administratively, what are some of the things that you need in the sport? And you know, I'm going to give, you know, all of you the chance to talk about, you know, where you see yourselves in the future in your various categories and so on. Yes.
I would say administratively, money is always a requirement. Really, it is. We need.
Do you get a subvention from the Ministry of Sport?
Yes, we do. We do. But
and help from the international bodies?
No, the international bodies, the federations. Yeah. Oh, they have enough to deal with. So you're basically on your own. You're always paying to them because you have to pay affiliation fees also.
Yes, yes. But there are no real benefits to the federation, are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once you're affiliated to the IFBB, which is something you must be in order to be in the TTBBF. Yeah, you have benefits. A myriad of benefits. But what I want to focus on, based on your question, is that money is always a requirement. Luckily for them, they have sponsors. Some other athletes require sponsors. But we prefer that sponsors come to sponsor the sport, not the individuals.
Yes.
Now, I don't mind that the individuals get special attention from whoever they know and so on, but what is needed is for people to inject money into sport in general to help Trinidad, to uplift Trinidad. I mean, there's a lot of money in Trinidad, I am sure.
Yes.
All the bends and,
well, we see it
all the things that all
around
us, we see it. It's just not being channeled into the areas that really need it.
Well, we hope that will change. And, you know, this is one of the reasons why we have these discussion programs, you know, hopefully
the sport has become so attractive now.
Yes, you know.
Fall in and please help.
Well, I think we probably have about a minute, the director tells me. And of course, I just want to give you all 30 seconds each to, you know, give your closing comments, where you see yourself in the, you know, your future in the sport.
In the sport? Yeah. Well, I would like to turn pro. That's done at CAC.
Yes.
So I have a shot at it this year, I think in the end of September. So that's really what I'm training
well, we'll be watching you closely.
Thank you.
Yes.
And well, of course, I'm launching my company ZFit in September, which is a nutrition company. So yes.
Another ad which we will chat for. Yes.
Quite business.
And Brett?
I mean, it's been such a wonderful thus far. I'm looking at what the international guys are doing. Ryan Terry, Physique, I don't want to say his last name and mispronounce it. And the sport is going so far that I feel very blessed to be riding this wave.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you all very much for guesting with us here on this edition of Sports Wednesday.
It was our pleasure.
And I'm sure it would not be our last opportunity to...
Certainly hope so. I have so much more to say. It's just, it's running away the time.
Yes, yeah. And all of the things that you need, you know, to really grow the sport in Trinidad and Tobago will be, you know, put in place over time. So thank you all very much, and I want to wish you all the best.
Again, thanks for having us.
Richard, I want to wish you and the Federation all the best as you administer the sport here in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have been our guest in studio. We've been discussing bodybuilding, and Richard Roberts, of course, we want to thank him, Vice President, Trinidad and Tobago Bodybuilding Federation, Zulema Charles, Miss Bikini winner 2015, and Brett Bengochea, Men's Physique winner 2015. And thank you for viewing, of course, all the day's action coming up with our gurus of sport here in studio, Wayne Cunningham and, of course, Gregory McBurney. Stay with us. Good to have you. See you around for another program.